Hey everyone, it's Docfire. It's time for another Docfire Down and Dirty Tech video. Today's tech video is going to be on the Killshot Customs Delrin trigger plate install on a Gunfighter 1.5 or 1.0 frame. So before you get started, let's get the tools assembled for what you're going to need, or what I recommend that you have, and let's go through that list. So first thing you're going to want, you want a hammer. Okay, this is just a standard hammer, which most people should have. A Allen kit, and this is a Bondus kit. This does have the ball in. I recommend having at least some of the ones that have the square end. If I can get this in the light where you can see it. The ball end will tend to, on these small stainless steel glide screws that are green Loctited in, can round those over and you can strip those out of there and make it difficult to get out. So have that. Some of your favorite lube, and in here I have some Dow 33 light. A couple of punches, at least one 1/8 inch or 3/32, and these are the made in the USA Matthew brand. Loctite to put the set screws back in. The factory Loctite for ShockTech is the Loctite brand 680 green, and that's a retaining compound. Or what I recommend, and you can get it from DocFirePaintball.com, is the Vibratite 111. So if you do order this Killshot plate, just put one of these. It's actually a smaller vial than this. It'd be, you'll have more than enough to do, probably 100 frames, and as long as you don't let it evaporate. But Loctite, and then finally a wooden block with a hole drilled in it. That's a little bit larger than the diameter of the pin, which is 1/8 inch. So this is like a 3/16 large hole or something like that. So that's what you need for tool-wise to do the installation. So let's go over some general stuff about when I'm talking about stuff so everyone understands. So if we look at the frame, let's do some orientation. We have the front of the frame, the rear of the frame, we have the right side of the frame. So if you're holding the marker, it'd be your right arm or your left side or right side. So this is the right side, that's the left side, and obviously the bottom. Okay. So when I'm talking about stuff, you guys understand, like which way to put a pin in from which side to the other. All right, and then finally, let's go over the Killshot Customs Delrin injection molded trigger plate. And so these are made by Killshot Customs. They're Delrin, 100% virgin Delrin, that they're made in Oregon. And so they're a USA-made company with U.S. workers, and so this plate is, it's kind of skeletonized, but it's the same dimensions. When I say dimensions, like the height-wise and the width, so it fits in the frame right and stuff like that. The only thing that's really different outside of the skeletonization and obviously the material is the hole. Although the hole's in the same spot, it's a different shape. It's not a slot, a vertical slot. It's just a standard hole. And it's a little on the small side, so you want to pre-fit your timing rod in here to make sure it's got not a tight fit, not like a snug fit, but just a loose, just enough where it will fall out, but it's like a slip fit. Or if you want it looser, you can make the hole bigger. But it was designed to accommodate different size, diameter timing rods that are out there. So there are several that are different. The other thing that's pretty interesting about it, if I can get it in the light, if you look down, you see the part line. When he engineered the mold, the part line is right in the middle. So reality is it's kind of V-shaped on all these edges. And what that does is it allows the glide screws to have a smaller contact point on it, which is even nicer. And then additionally, it comes with two replacement glide screws that are steel. And then they're the dome style. Let me get this up there. You can see it. It's domed and highly polished, and Dan from Killshot polishes these himself. And so really nice screws. So that's what comes with all that. So some things to remember about the frame. The first thing is, like I said, is we have the orientation, is that a lot of people, when they get this Killshot plate, is what they'll try to do is they'll try to just pull that trigger, because the trigger almost comes out, right? But what happens is it gets stuck. Even if you were to pull back on this carriage, the tip of this trigger the little finger groove area, gets caught right about where that front travel set screw is located. So a lot of people do is they'll unscrew that set screw. Do not do that. That set screw was set by the factory to a certain length, and it really, you don't want to change it, because what will happen, if you notice that when I pull the trigger back, this arm goes this way, and then it drops the sear down, right? Well, if I pull this plate out of there, this arm will move a little bit further forward, which it raises the sear, okay? And when it raises the sear like that, and you have the lug on your hammer is low down, it's low, because remember, those get installed to where it goes flush with the bottom of the frame. Sometimes you'll get a binding issue, okay? So this is preset right here at the front, so you don't worry about this binding. So you shouldn't mess with that. So now, how do you get this trigger out of here? Well, it's much easier than it looks. It's a lot easier. So with the tools you're going to need to get that out, you're going to need your wooden block, a punch, and your hammer. And I'm going to put the hammer off to the side because we're not going to hammer on anything right now. I have a couple different punches here, but I've already pre-tapped this one out. You can see, I'm going to bring it up here. Let's get it in there. And see, this is the right side of the frame, and you see where it's knurled? The knurling should always pop out first, okay? The knurling is always, if this was manufactured at ShockTech, I can't speak for the ones that were raw and it's installed by someone else, but you want to check where that knurling is, and you want to punch out towards that knurling. You don't want to punch the knurling through the bearing. It will destroy the bearing. Well, actually rip it apart. So we're going to punch it out from the left to the right on the factory installed ShockTechs. But always look, make sure you can see, like you can see where the knurling is, and I'm going to try to get this up here a little bit. Let's see if I can get that in there. You can kind of see that back one. See the knurling? You can just see on that lower pin, this one right here. Yeah, you can see there. So just make sure you're punching in the direction of the knurling. Okay? And like I said, it's normally from left to right. So the easiest way to do it is to get it going. You don't need a lot of force. You put your trigger like that, and you punch it through. And if you're careful, and that's why you like using a little smaller diameter rod, because then I'm not going to catch the bearing or anything like that. The pin will be left there. And the nice thing is now the bearing is held by this pin. If you're lucky, it gets pushed through and it's held by the pin. Remember, don't beat on this. Just tap on it. It will slowly move. Just nice light taps. If you beat on it too far, you could risk the chance of having this punch hit the edge of that bearing race on the inside and punch it out and destroy that bearing. You have to get a new bearing. So then what I do is I flip the whole unit over, lay it flat on the ground here, and just lift everything up. Okay, that makes sure things don't fly everywhere. Makes it really nice. Okay, put that off to the side. And so what do we get out of here? We have the pin, we have the trigger plate, we have the two washers, and the 1/8 inch dowel pin with the knurling on the end. And so now you're ready, or almost ready to install this plate. Actually, you could install this plate, but there's a couple of things you can do. Let's say you don't have the plate and you wanted to take this apart and polish it. So what areas would you polish on this plate? You would polish this top little spot right here. Myself right here, where that rubs against the bottom of the body. This bottom glide area right here. On this area right here, you want to make sure it's kept nice and flat. You don't want to use a file or anything like that. It should just be polishing compound. If you have a buffing wheel or something like that, like on a grinder buffing wheel or something like that, if you make this wavy, it's going to feel bad. This is the back area where this little bearing right here pushes against. You can polish that. And this is the top area where this bearing right here runs against. And you can polish that. And he actually chamfers this off a little bit, just as a very small contact spot of that bearing. And so you can polish that. And then obviously you can polish the sides. Okay. And that will make this even, what I think is a pretty phenomenal frame, even better. And then if you don't want to do all that polishing and stuff like that, then you don't have to, but you probably already bought the Killshot plate, which is kind of like pre-polishing, right? You know, here someone else is spending the time to make that nice polished feel, in essence, because the Delrin, you know, does slide really nice. So what do you get? What else do you get with that plate? Obviously, we get the new glide screws. Now you have a choice. You don't have to use the glide screws that come with the Killshot plate. You can use the glide screws that are already in here, and that's fine. They will work because the glide screws are already in here. And I'm going to try to get this in the camera. Try to get this up in the right light. There, you can see them. So those glide screws, they're not a dome top, but they're very similar to the glide screws that are on a A&S quick fire frame, okay, that have the little plastic tip screws, but these are metal. So they're all 100% stainless steel. It's just like a little tip on the end of that stainless steel, and these are actually pretty nice. They're fairly polished, and they do a really good job. And if you're using this frame that was probably already kind of rubbing down and taking any burrs or anything away from it to start off with. So to take out those screws, I recommend that you use a square tip 5/64 inch Allen, and you put it in there and you make sure it's already all the way seated into that set screw, and you try to just turn it with a little bit of force. If you feel like you're going to strip something, stop. Okay, like if you're going to egg out the Allen head on that, then stop, because these are stainless steel and they're soft and you can destroy them. It depends on how much Loctite, green Loctite, was put on this by the factory. Sometimes, like this one, I can move a little bit. I'm not going to take these out. And then likewise, you do the same with the bottom, and you can loosen up with this guy and then finish with a 5/64. If you have a long one, well, I have a longer one here. These are nice because when you put them through the hole, you can push them all the way through, and you can spin it when it's all the way down here. Has a little bit more space. So you get those out. Now, how do you put them back in? All right, so let's slide these parts over here. Let's grab things like this. Let's grab our Loctite. All the tools I'm going to need to install my glide screws. So the glide screws are removed, right? The easiest way to install them is put the frame on its side, slide the Allen wrench through so where it's poking out, put the set screw on there, put a small dab of Vibratite, either the green if you want to do ShockTech stock, or the Vibratite 111, and then grab something flat. You can use the trigger, the old trigger, and you can, this little tang right here, and just kind of, you don't have to push hard, just kind of guide this down so this little set screw doesn't fall off, okay, until you feel it hit the threads, and then you counterclockwise turn on this Allen, and it should catch those threads and thread in easily. If it's binding, then stop, and you may have it cross-threaded, so you make sure you don't want to cross-thread these things, okay? And you do that for the front and the back, okay? When you get the glide screws put in, the Vibratite stuff shouldn't lock up that quick, but it is adjustable, which makes it nice. The green stuff, when it locks up, it locks up. So if you're using the green, you may want to put the frame and put the plate in, and then set the screw height a little bit. A lot of times you have time to do it, so but before it sets up. But you want to you don't want to just put the set screws and walk away and then come back an hour from now. They may be in the wrong spot and you may have to loosen them back up. So that's how you do that. So you got the set screws in. It's pretty easy. How do you put the plate in? I recommend that you push back down on this. It's like a button on the sear, and you drop the plate in. Okay, the plate's in there, and now we want to get all these parts installed. So tools you're going to need to do that. Let me pull this away. So you're going to need your thin Allen, obviously these screws. I get a little bit of Dow 33, and I just put a little tiny dab right here. I just need very little. And what I'm going to use this for is I want to dip just the edge of that bearing where I can grab onto that washer. Just that, all that Dow 33 is doing is acting like something sticky, and it's allowing me to stick those to there. Put the frame on this on its side with the left side down and the right side up. And if you can, I'm just going to slide these in. Of course, it's much easier to do it when no one's watching. All right, let me try this again. My fingers are get everything put back together here. Okay. If everything's stuck together, they should just slide right in. Okay, have them slid in. I'm not tilting this. I want to put my thin punch in, and I just want to run up there. If I have to, I can align it to where it needs to be. This punch is a little magnetic, so, which I don't like. There we go. Get everything lined up, and I'm going to put this. Nope, they need to be slid back just a little bit. I can't really see what I'm doing here because it's at a weird angle for the camera. Okay. I got to get this other guy. Of course, everything moved on me, so let me pop everything out again. Let's put a little bit more lube on that. Stick that guy on there. And I'm sure Danny Love can watch this and laugh at me. I'm sure he has a really efficient way of doing this. Actually, I know he does. But I'm trying to do it as, you know, how you guys would have to do things. So just kind of get it close to where I want it. Put the punch in from the bottom. There we go. Everything's lined up in there, okay? So that punch has got, and then verify that you have the washer, bearing, washer in that order. So with the punch in, you take your pen, you hold on to the knurling side, and you just push the pen in while it's pushing the punch out. Okay, and that should grab all the two washers and the bearing. Fine. All right. So now you got everything done. Now, how do you reset this? What I recommend doing is you'll find out that this knurled part will probably find its home where it cut the little grooves in there before when it's pressed in there from the factory. It should kind of find that home spot again. You're not going to be able to push it in with your thumb. Maybe you can, but if 9 times out of 10 you can't, it needs to be pressed back into place. Now, a key thing to remember is you just want to press this in until it's flush with the outside body. Okay, if you push that knurled spot in too far and it gets into that bearing, it will destroy that bearing. Okay, or it'll lock things up. So you don't want to do that. So there's a couple ways of doing it. You can take your 1/8 inch. And you can, you know, tap it in that way with a light hammer. And I recommend a light hammer. A heavy hammer tends to have things slip. Or what you could do is you could, if you have a vise at your house, put a wood block on one side. You could use your trigger plate here, put this on the other side, and with the vise, just squeeze this together and we'll push that pin in until it's flush. You don't need a ton of force. You'll feel it when it starts pushing in when you're collapsing that vise, and it should push that pin in until it's flush. Okay, when it's flush, you're good to go. It is in place, and you're ready to go. Now the nice thing is you haven't changed the factory setting here. You have the factory lug setting that shouldn't be changed, and the only thing if you want to change is the rear travel. And quite frankly, I wouldn't worry at that. If it's factory set, I would leave it at that, and you can mess with that later. Now, can you adjust some of these two, that front screw and this rear travel? Yeah, you can. But really, factory set is about perfect. If you adjust it and you start having problems, you may have to go and pull the plate and put this in there to factory set it. It's a little easier to factory set with this plate, the factory plate. So don't don't lose that. Put it back in the Killshot bag, put it in your gear bag or your tools or whatever. But the Killshot plate is now installed. The only thing you have to do to finish install this is put the trigger shoe on, the ShockTech trigger shoe on. And the Killshot plate, it has 2 dimples. You can see that there in the light, right light there. There you go. The 2 dimples there. That's for the 2 set screws on the ShockTech plate, so you know you're putting it on the right side. It doesn't have dimples on the other side. And any lubricant you want to do that, there's a lubricant procedure, but every hinge spot on here would require a little bit of light oil. And I think they recommend it's a like Zoom Spout is one brand. You know, a light 3-in-1 oil, a little drip on the bearings up here, and all these little hinge parts. That's your just general maintenance on that to make sure that it's working good. Okay. And then finally is install this on your gun. And so if you bought the gunfighter from either ShockTech or myself, or even someone like Jason Antle, who's a ShockTech dealer, it should come with a timing rod, and like most of mine, I all sell them with the long timing rod because most people don't have minis. So we'll have a timing rod. I recommend using the ShockTech timing rod. It's a nice timing rod, but you don't have to. Okay, so you may not need to change anything on your timing, or you may need to adjust your timing rod a little bit to get the timing back in place. If it's a first time install, you will have to do that. If you had this on here and you had it working, all you're doing is swapping the plates, you may not have to do that, but you never know. You may have to do it. Additionally, when you get these frames, there'll be 2 screws in the bottom here that are screwed in here. That's your frame screws. They're just stored right in here. And there's a short one and a long one. The long one goes up front, the short one goes in back, and installed on your gun, and follow those directions for the gunfighter frame installing it on your gun if it's a first time type of thing. So with that, that's the installation of the Killshot Kustoms Delrin trigger plate on a ShockTech gunfighter frame 1.5 or the 1.0. It will work. This is the 1.5 frame. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified on future videos from Docfire Paintball. Docfire out.